What was his name? He said, I don't remember the name. I said, does Sonny Franzese sound familiar? He said, yeah, that was it, Sonny Franzese. I said, that was my father. I said, I want to meet this woman. He got scared immediately. He kind of froze. He said, well, look, I don't want to get involved. You don't understand. This woman is crazy. If I give it up like this, she may shoot me. You don't know what she might do. I said, well, you got two choices. Either she's going to shoot you or you're never going to see her again, because you're not leaving this place until you give me this information. This is valuable for me. It was the early 1970s. My dad had just proposed me for membership into the Colombo family. And a lot of people have asked me, why did I ever become a member? And I told them the reason I got involved in that life was because I wanted to help my father prove his innocence on a case that he claimed outright that he was framed on. My dad was allegedly masterminding a series of bank robberies throughout the country. My dad said he was framed, he was innocent, he was no bank robber, and I had to help him overturn that conviction and the sentence of 50 years. My dad thought that the best way I could do that was by becoming a member of his life. Now, why, you say? Well, listen, I don't know if any of you out there have ever been involved in a federal case, but I can tell you, very, very difficult to overcome or overturn a conviction. It's not an accident that their conviction rate is well over 95, 96%. You get indicted by the feds, most of the time you're going to jail, you're going to lose. So in my dad's case, we had a rough task ahead of us. We had to, number one, raise a lot of money. It's very expensive to fight these cases. Number two, we had to find the witnesses that testified against him and get them to recant their testimony, basically to tell the truth. I needed money for lawyers, obviously, very expensive. These lawyers charge a lot of money. And I needed some influence. I needed to be able to get to people, make connections, politically maybe. So my dad thought it would be better served if I became a member of his life. And that's the reason I got involved. So when it comes to finding witnesses, I want to tell you something. There is a moral to this story. I'm 21, 22 years old. I'm proposed for membership. I had a pizza restaurant out in Suffolk County called Sonny's Pizza, named it after my father, in honor of him. I did a lot of things in that regard. Right next to this pizza place was a bar called the Village Pub. It was out in Suffolk County. So I go in that bar and, I used to hang out there with a couple of my friends. It was late at night. And I'm sitting at a table and I'm listening to some guy who's had a big mouth. He's talking and he's, boasting about himself and so on and so forth. And I hear him say, I had this girlfriend and she was going out with some mob guy and she framed some mobster and so on and so forth. So when I heard that, it caught my attention because one of the witnesses, I know his wife was involved in the case. So I'm listening for a second and then I walk over to the guy and I said, come here, I want to talk to you. So he says, what's up? And he was drinking a little bit. You could see that he was, it was kind of high. So I said, you mentioned your ex-girlfriend. What was her name? And he said, well, her name was Eleanor. We called her Rusty, but her real name was Eleanor. I knew I hit the jackpot. The witness against my father, his name was John Cordero. His wife was Eleanor Cordero. I said, come here, I got to talk to you. Let's go in the back for a minute. He said, what do you mean? I said, let's go in the back. So we go in the back and I say, look, the guy you were talking about, that your girlfriend, your ex-girlfriend, boyfriend may have testified against, what was his name? He said, I don't remember the name. I said, does Sonny Franzese sound familiar? He said, yeah, that was it, Sonny Franzese. I said, that was my father. I said, I want to meet this woman. He got scared immediately. He kind of froze. He said, well, look, I don't want to get involved. You don't understand. This woman is crazy. If I give it up like this, she may shoot me. You don't know what she might do. I said, well, you got two choices. Either she's going to shoot you or you're never going to see her again, because you're not leaving this place until you give me this information. This is valuable for me. He spilled his guts. He gave me the woman's name, her address, and so on and so forth. I said, you got to go see her and you got to set up a meeting. Here's my number. Here's how you get in touch with me. I want yours and I want to meet this woman. He comes through. The next day, he says to me, Eleanor is willing to meet you. She wants to meet you late at night behind this diner out in Suffolk County. She'll be driving a red Mustang. I said, okay, great. What do? I immediately go to the lawyer. I want to get some advice. I said, look, I'm meeting up with Eleanor Cordero. If she shows up, this could be big. Her husband framed my father, could be big. Not only did her husband frame my father, but she drove the getaway car in a number of the bank robberies. So she was personally involved. Along with that, my father had been indicted prior to this. He beat the case, but he was indicted for the murder of a guy by the name of Ernie the Hawk Rapolo. This woman was married to that guy until he got killed, and then she went to this other guy. She wasn't great in picking out husbands. Anyway, I said, so I may have an opportunity to meet her. So the lawyer says immediately, you got to wire yourself up. You may never see her again. You got to wire herself up and get her to say that her husband framed your father. I said, okay. And then, I'm thinking about it, and I said, you know what? I don't want to wire myself. I said, let me meet her first, the first meeting. I'm still young. I'm, getting my feet wet. I'm 20, 21 years old, whatever I was. I said, let me just meet her first and see what happens from that point. Okay. Late at night, I go to the diner. There's the red Mustang, right? It's parked. I go up. I see her in the window, and you got to understand something. This was not a good-looking woman, and I'm going to tell you why in a minute. Anyway, it was her. She said, get in the car. I get in the car. I sit down. She immediately pulls out a 38 or a 32, I don't remember at this point, points it at my head, and she says, if you're wired, I'm going to blow your brains out. I said, Eleanor, I'm not wired. I said, I got nothing on me, nothing bugs. So she immediately pats me down everywhere, chest, crotch, the whole bit, pats me down. And I said, I'm clean. She says, okay. She looks at me, keeps the gun at my head, and she says straight out, I can help you. Your father was framed. I know all the information. My husband and the other witnesses framed him, but I want money and I want protection. I said, well, let me think about this for a minute, Eleanor. I says, remember, now I didn't know if she was wired, so I didn't want to say something wrong to blow this thing up. I said, look, Eleanor, I can't give you money. I said, if I give you money, they're going to say I paid for you, I bribed you, I can't give you money. If you're telling the truth, you got to go and tell the truth. That's all we want out of you is the truth. I played it just like that, which was true. We wanted the truth. I said, but protection, I'm allowed to give you. I said, who are you afraid of? She said, I'm afraid of my ex-husband, and I'm afraid of the government, because if they know I'm trying to help your father, I said, I'm in trouble. Now, why was she afraid of her ex-husband? She has split up with him, and when he split up with her, okay, he was extremely upset with her. Now listen to this. Okay, he had her in an apartment. This was a bad guy. He had her in an apartment, and he had an axe, and he started hitting her with the axe. He was going to kill her. He hit her with the axe. He held her up there for 2 days. As he was hitting her with the axe, I know this is horrible and very offensive, he was having intimate relations with her. And he was putting in tranquilizers down her throat to clot the blood as he was hitting her. The crazy guy, after 2 days holding her up there, he said, I'm going down into the basement of wherever he was. I'm going to sharpen the axe, and when I come up, I'm going to chop into little pieces. Now, this is the story the woman's relating to me. He goes down to sharpen the axe. She somehow, this is how brutal this woman is, she somehow drags herself off the bed, bleeding like crazy, goes to the phone, calls 911. By the time he gets back there to finish the job, the cops are up there, they arrest him, they lock him up, take him away. They rush her to the hospital. She ends up with 2,000 stitches. Her head, her face, her arms, it was a mess. I don't know how he hit her and didn't chop her up. He must have just been teasing her with the axe. This is a bad guy. And this is the lead witness that testified against my father. He was a drug addict, a junkie, the whole bit. So she tells me I need protection from that, and I need protection from the FBI or the government. They're going to be very upset if they know that I'm cooperating against your father. Long story short, we brought her to the lawyer. We gave her a lie detector test. She passed in flying colors. She told the lawyer and the lie detector, the guy administered the test, that my father was innocent, that they were framed. She said the whole thing, which I'm going to get into later on. I do this heavy in my book, but later on I'll get into it. And we eventually brought her into her court as a witness. We lost the appeal. I'll get into that later on. Lost the appeal because, like I said, very difficult to beat a federal case on appeal, especially back east, the Second Circuit of New York, the appellate court, very difficult court to win anything on. We couldn't win anything. But this was the first of a series of appeals that we put in on my father's case. Never won anything, always overturned. My dad did every day of his time, even though he was paroled 5 times. People said to me, Michael, how is he paroled on a 50-year sentence? Back then, my dad was given what they call an A sentence, which meant that he didn't have to do any minimum amount of time to be paroled. He could have been paroled after 1 day. And what they did, they gave that to guys as an incentive to cooperate. Because, hey, you cooperate with us, we go to the judge, we get you free immediately. Of course, they didn't realize my father would never have any of that. But that's what he had, an A sentence, and that's why he made parole 5 times during that time. Ordinarily, it wouldn't happen. Today, forget about it. You got to pay, you got to do 85% of your time. There is no more parole. Nothing like that. But back then, that's what it was about. So I'm going to get into the story a little bit more. I just wanted to start it and relate it today. But what's the moral here? First of all, when you're in a bar, people, and I know guys sometimes are guilty of this, keep your mouth shut. Don't get drunk. Don't start babbling. If this guy doesn't get drunk and start shooting his mouth off loud enough so I could hear at the next table, whoever the heck I was, he would have never had that situation. Lucky for me, he did, because it opened up something, on my dad's behalf. And I speak to athletes all the time, and I tell them this. When you're in a bar, people, after 12 o'clock, nothing good happens in a bar. Nothing. That's when everybody gets drunk and they become tough guys and they want to fight and so on and so forth. And I want to tell you this. This is a lesson that I told all of these young people. Every time I speak to them, I'm going to ask you the same question. I'll ask you a question. You guys, let's make believe you're in a bar. You had a couple of drinks. You're okay. You're talking to a young lady at the bar. She's liking you a little bit. You're having a great conversation. Guy comes over and he wants to interrupt. He's got his eye on your girl. He wants to interrupt, wants to butt in. You tell him, please get away. He says, no, you're a pretty good fighter. Before you know it, you lose your temper. Boom. Okay? You bang him out. He goes down. What do you do when that happens? What do? You fight him more. You kick him when he's down. You throw him out the door because he leaves. What do? I'll tell you what you do. You leave the bar immediately. You don't stay there another minute. I can't tell you how many times, because I used to hang out every night, 6 nights a week. I was in a club. That's the mob life. I can't tell you how many times I seen an incident exactly like that happen. Guy knocks somebody out. Guy picks himself up. He leaves, comes back a half an hour later with a bunch of his friends, gun or a knife, and boom, he kills the guy that hit him. Whenever there's a controversy, a fight, or anything at a bar, as soon as it's over, you leave. Nothing good happens in a bar when something like that happens. Trust me on that. So that's it for now. I'll be back more on this subject, and we'll be back again. We're posting a few times a week, hopefully providing good content for all of you. But I want to thank all of you that have joined our community, that have gone on to michaelfranzese.com and joined our free community. People are really loving it. We have almost 2,000 people involved right now in the community. They're sharing ideas, sharing thoughts, sharing struggles, sharing prayers. I'm getting involved, providing a lot of content to all of you, and it's been a wonderful experience for everybody involved. And I can read you so many, letters that I'm getting from everybody thanking me for starting this community, especially during this pandemic. People are really getting a lot out of it. For those of you that want a little bit more access to me, there's another level. There is a fee involved in that because you're going to get a lot more of my time, and I'm going to help you out as best I can. If you think these things are helpful to you, jump on board, people. We're really enjoying it. We're both getting a lot out of it. I know you will. My experience, the knowledge I've had on the street has helped a lot of people, and we want to continue that. So thanks a lot. We're going to see you all next time. God bless. Stay safe, stay healthy, and be good.